Thanks for joining us on this Sunday morning. It's about 8:15 now. We are here to talk a little bit more about severe weather. I'm meteorologist Jacob Dickey.
Meteorologist Jack Gerfen, so off the news desk from 15 minutes ago. Now back to my main weather gig here on this Sunday morning.
You're right about that. So we're going to talk some about the severe weather threat today and break it down for you. A little more of an extended coverage from the couple of minutes that were allowed during the morning show. And we also will take some time to answer your questions. So at the end, we'll go back through the comments and take a look at it. So Jack and I will be tag teaming the updates this morning. We think things get active by the afternoon and into the evening hours. So we're going to break it down for you, answer those questions, and let's go ahead and get started. Sound good, Jack?
Sounds good. I will say, in my defense, though, I did give you more time this morning for your weather hits. So
you did.
Yes.
You did.
But we have only 3 minutes usually at the most, and this time we have now like 15 minutes we can go through to answer every question that you may have.
That's right. Anytime we do these Facebook Lives, I always like to say, this is more than the 3 minutes that I'm allotted during a show. This allows us to also answer viewer questions, which is a great time to connect.
Perfect.
All right, let's get started. We're going to take care of some housekeeping real fast. First off, if you haven't downloaded the WCIA3 weather app, it's a great app to have. First off, right now, if you're on the computer watching, you can use your phone and scan this code. If you're watching on your phone now, afterwards, be sure and go back and download the WCIA3 weather app. You can search on Google Play and the Apple App Store, WCIA3 weather. You can program your location, get push alerts for severe weather alerts in your area, watch radar, get the full forecast updates there for your area. A great resource to have, especially with strong to severe storms expected today. Other things as well, we do know that the Bears game is on today. Fingers crossed, we get through it completely without any uninterrupted problems, but the chance is there. We're doing some housekeeping now. These are other places you can watch, cbssports.com, Paramount Plus, NFL Game Pass, NFL app. We can also listen to it on some of those radio stations there. Jack, it's a bit of a familiar scene this day when we have football and we have severe weather, right?
Yep, back on November 17th, a number of years ago when we had Chief Meteorologist Derek Favorite. That was on a Sunday, and that was also when CBS had the Bears game. And then also a few years ago when I was myself doing the SEC championship game on CBS with Alabama and Georgia, had the Taylorville tornado. So there are times where we do have, unfortunately, a sporting event that people want to watch, and we have weather that will impact it. And we do our best to make sure that we stay respectful of those who want to watch the game. But with today's setup that we do have for today, it's possible that we may be kind of blowing through some coverage. Hopefully everything stays after the game, but that chance, unfortunately, is there. So please
yeah, and
real
quick, Jack, maybe we want to mention that while we've mentioned some of those dates that had some big type events, there's not necessarily similarities between those.
That's true, yeah.
Really, the only similarity is sports.
The sports, yeah. That's all. Only reason why I'm mentioning that, just because of the fact that sports will be likely impacted there. So CBSSports.com and the Paramount Plus app are all good spots to go check that out. We also have NFL Game Pass, the NFL app. If you've got NFL Red Zone, you're also going to be okay checking that one out too. And then Jacob did some good research here. 92.5 FM, 1050 AM, 1230 AM, and 1450 AM are all radio stations that will have the Bears coverage on the game too. Also, if you have Sirius XM, you can listen to the game there on their app. It's a great app, and also if you're in your car too. But Jacob, yeah, today we're just going to have to be just weather aware today with our sports on there. But I think, like you've been saying, a lot of our timing is going to be coming in after the fact.
Yeah, that's right. We will be double boxing as well. That's something that we want to mention too, if it's needed. So we're not going to just blow out the game.
Correct.
That's that. So
so we'll go on now. Now that we've got all that done, we've got our Storm Tracker Doppler up currently. You've already heard a lot of rain showers and possibly even some rumbles of thunder as well this morning. As we kind of go to the northern part of our viewing area, you've even got just a lot of the greens, yellows, even oranges there, just a lot of steady rain and maybe even some moderate to potentially heavy rain showers at times is already falling. This is all along and north of the warm front, and the closer that you get to the warm front, the more storm activity you have there because of the fact that some of the atmospheric ingredients along the front tend to be a little bit better than north of it. So that's why we do have some of those stronger little cells here and there with some lightning strikes becoming a bit more prevalent here, kind of in the Arcola area, Tuscola area, kind of right along I-57 there, and then back off to the west. You got a little bit of a kind of lining out segment here that is starting to occur in the Shelby County area. So we're kind of watching things maybe becoming a bit more stormy for some of you this morning, but still though, a lot of rain has already fallen. You got more rain showers that are kind of along and mainly north of I-72 from essentially Decatur to Jacksonville. And as we go towards that Jacksonville area, you'll notice that our rainfall estimated amounts on the radar are coming in some spots over 4 to 5 inches. Now, radar estimated rainfall is typically a bit higher than what has actually been seen, but Jacob, you had a Coco Ross report that was it from the Jacksonville area?
Yeah, we had a couple, and I'll just check real quick to see if there's any updates, but it was in the 3 to 4 inch range.
Yeah, 3 to 4 inch range already. So our radar estimated rainfall doing a pretty good job already of picking out where the spots have already seen some heavy rain, and this is obviously, it's only 8:20 something in the morning. So we're going to have to watch this because there's going to be a lot of spots that are going to see rainfall amounts like this, and it's going to rain in many spots for a lot of the day today.
Yeah, that's right. We kind of mentioned the warm front is key to the forecast. It's still far enough south where the severe threat this morning is very low to almost zero. We can sometimes get elevated storms north of the warm front that produce hail, but at this point, we're not overly concerned until the afternoon hours here.
Yep.
Temperature's just a little too cool at the surface to have anything surface-based. You need surface-based storms for tornadoes. You can have wind also in surface-based storms. You can have hail in surface-based storms. But if your storms are elevated, high up, there's a lot of cold air they can tap into, and sometimes that can bring some small hail. Have not had any reports. Don't have any concern about that right now. This is a look at those current temperatures. Watch what happens as we go through the afternoon. See these oranges and yellows that start to fill on in here? Temperatures start getting into the upper 60s and low 70s, even mid to upper 70s in spots. That's the warm front lifting to the north, and areas that are in that more unstable air, the warmer air, is where we'll have concerns for severe weather. There's a good chance the areas north here, parts of Livingston, Ford, and Iroquois County, may end up missing out on severe weather today. And that could be even a little more south, depending on where the warm front sets up. We think it's a good bet south of Interstate 72 towards Danville even for the chance for severe weather. We'll watch and see how far north that ends up getting. The severe threat is something we'll have to watch too, even when we see the cold front slide on through the last line of storms by about midnight. Things should be wrapping up here into the region. Let's talk about some of those severe weather impacts. We are going to keep on the table the chance for everything. I will mention a lot of times hail, wind, and tornadoes steals the spotlight, but I want to make sure we focus on flooding because I'm genuinely concerned that there could be some very heavy rainfall totals across central Illinois. When I woke up this morning to come into work, already we're seeing 2 to 4 inch rainfall totals in Morgan County, now into Sangamon County. Those numbers now 3 to 6. That's a concerning sign so early in the day to have heavy rainfall totals like that. So the flooding threat deserves some respect. We'll talk more about the individual threats for tornado, wind, and hail, but all of those on table. We encourage you to stay weather aware today. And we'll also mention that with the tornado threat, yes, there's a conditional one early to mid-afternoon, but the main event probably going to come this evening. We'll encourage you from 2, 3 o'clock onward to be in particular weather aware and closer to things. So that's what we're going to watch here. That flash flood watch continues through Monday morning. For the flood threat, we'll focus on that first. This one may be the most impactful or the most widespread impacts. Flooding happens over a large area. Tornado, usually very localized. And we may very well see some areas with, before all is said and done, 4 to 7 inches locally. Widespread 2 to 5, I think. 4 to 7, the upper range. And hopefully that's all we get for today in some of these spots. But if we see those storms train over the same area like we had in Morgan County, that may very well cause some problems. This is what Future Track shows. You'll see here, this is additional rainfall from now on through the rest of the day. There's this big band here. Those reds are 2 to 4 inches, and there's some embedded pockets that are higher than that. So we'll likely continue to add to the rain today, which may lead to some flooding, especially in low-lying areas. If your basement is susceptible, especially north, along and north of Interstate 72, 74, that's the highest concern. But still, some of these areas to the south here, we're estimating 1 to 3 inches in parts of Coles, Douglas, Edgar counties. We'll have to watch in areas to the south as well for flooding, but the highest concern is areas in that flash flood watch. If you're under that, you know about it first from your WCI 3 weather app. This is the Sbc Storm Outlook now, and Jack, we'll send it back to you here in a second, I think.
Sure, yep.
The orange here is the enhanced risk. That's a level 3 out of 5. We have the level 2 out of 5 in yellow. It's been pulled up to the north and east. We said that probably would happen last night during the news, and that's the case. The latest update from just now 8 a.m. has kept things pretty much where they are as expected. So the forecast well on target here with that.
Yeah,
We talked about these storms, and Jack, you wanted to mention something real fast.
Oh, I was just going to say, you can go back to your SBC map there. I don't think they actually did change much of anything.
No, it
looks like they
really wasn't.
kept it the same.
They held it pretty constant.
Yeah, which is going to be good at that point. So that means that, a lot of times when we have these SBC outlooks, especially on the day it's supposed to happen, you may get from different run to different run some relatively, especially on days like today where there's potentially a higher impact, we may get some bigger changes here and there. So it's good to know that things have stayed the same, which will help with our forecast and being able to give you a confident forecast in terms of what we can expect. So that's good news there. Unfortunately, though, it did still keep enhanced risk, slight risk for most of the viewing area. So again, we would have wanted to see, if we wanted to have a change, we would have wanted to have obviously lowered and lessened the threat there. But really kind of thinking that the way that things are going to plan out is that the places that will get the most rain, Jacob, you'd most likely agree that the spots that get the most rain are probably going to have the spots that have the lower severe end threat, and the spots that have less rain today will be the ones that have more of a severe threat, because most of our rain today is going to be along and north of the warm front, which would keep things maybe a little bit more stable. South of there, where it's going to be a bit more unstable, you're not going to have as much of the widespread rain showers. So the spots that don't see as much rain are going to be more in the southern parts of our viewing area, where we do have the higher risks from that. So just something to kind of point out there. But I think you got the next graphic still.
Yeah. We want to mention too, Jack, we're going to talk more about that. There actually have been some upgrades in this enhanced area for certain threats.
Okay.
So we're going to mention that here in just a minute. Let's talk specifically about the storm timing real quick and what we're expecting through 11 a.m. Rain, flooding, maybe a little small hail, but that threat pretty low here. We think we're okay this morning. If you're heading to church, you'll be just fine. The afternoon, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., that's when we start to transition things with the warm front arriving. The threat's still conditional. The tornado threat, I think we have to watch, especially as we get the afternoon hours. And we've moved our round 3 from 3 p.m. until midnight. The tornado threat, probably the highest then. By that point, we'll probably be seeing quite a bit of flooding. It'll pretty consistently be raining in areas until then. Hail and wind will also accompany it, so that highest time period is going to be that. Yes, some folks in the comments are mentioning that the marginal in Champaign was moved up. We were in a slight for a little bit. We went back to a marginal. We're back into a slight here this morning, and I think that's about where we should be. This is where the concern is, though, here. We're going to let you talk future track real quick, Jack.
Yep.
And then I'm going to mention more about some of these specific impacts, specifically the tornado threat, which has come up for today.
Okay. Yeah, so really we have in this version of our future track, you've got a lot of the heavy rain that's going to be seen again along and north of the warm front. The thing that's going to be probably the biggest unknown, Jacob, and I think you'd agree with this, would, based on your previous graphic, was going to be that round 2. That's the one that we kind of have the little bit of things you got to kind of watch out for, because it's going to be closer to the warm front, so it'd be at the bottom of where the precipitation is. But that would be where you start to get a bit more in the way of some stronger storms that possibly could be developing by the early afternoon hours. Those will be the ones that might be kind of the curveball in the forecast. You can kind of see by 3 o'clock, things become a little bit more what we call cellular there. You've got a little bit more in the way of individual cells within the rain showers. And with that, you can sometimes get some of the stronger storms. And if they are close to the warm front, they may be able to kind of ride along the front. And sometimes riding along a front or a boundary like that is enough for the storms to then begin to get a little bit of some of that rotation in place. It's kind of, if you think about it, it's, if you're watching water kind of moving along a wall, you get the little eddies there that form along the side of the wall. That would be a storm kind of riding along a boundary where it kind of rubs up against it, turns a little bit, and that would be the rotation that we would potentially need to get a tornado threat out of there. At the very least, though, storms that have some rotation with them tend to obviously be stronger too. So our wind and our hail threat will begin to pick up too, especially depending on where these are. If they're along the warm front, if they're south of the warm front, or if they are kind of just north of the warm front too. Like Jacob was saying earlier on, if you have a storm that's north of the warm front, it sometimes is not essentially attached to the ground, which means that it's kind of more of a elevated storm base, and because of that, you can get some of the hail involved in there too. If it's a cell that is south of the warm front, you'd be likely looking at more of a wind threat out of that one, because then it's your more classic storm where it's warm and it's humid at the ground and it's able to get a lot of juice to keep on going. But it'll be the ones that will be along the warm front itself. Those are the ones that we had to kind of watch out for for maybe some additional rotation that could begin to get picked up here. Again, we've been saying that later on this evening, the warm front will be lifting to the north. So it is actually quite possible that a lot of your high temperatures for today, especially kind of in the I-72, I-74 corridor, south of there, it's going to be warm for most of the day. But kind of by the interstates there that cross us from west to east, you very well could end up having your high temperature by closer to dinner time tonight because the warm front will be lifting to the north. So that's going to be something to watch out for. And then, and this model is not kind of changing things a little bit. What we've been kind of assuming this entire time was that then the actual cold front would be coming on through, and there'd be a line of storms along that front, which we still do think will happen. But this model not exactly showing it the best as of right now. But that's why we've been saying that the chance of storms could be possible here going into the evening hours and nighttime hours tonight because of the cold front. So this could be a long day. We could have some storms that we have to talk about in the afternoon. Maybe we're kind of waiting for a little bit of a break, and then the cold front comes on through with a big line of storms, and that would fire off some more warnings potentially. That would be most likely later on in the evening, so after 7, 8 o'clock or so. So, Jake, I'm going to send it back to you now. You've updated some of the graphics in terms of some of the threat levels.
Yeah, that's right. This is the graphic I wanted to mention, Jack. The enhanced risk stayed the same, but within the enhanced risk, the tornado threat went up a little bit. Our enhanced risk originally was for the wind and hail threat, but now the tornado threat has been pulled more to the east along the warm front. We're calling it a 7 out of 10 right now for the areas in orange. That will include Jacksonville, Springfield, Decatur, Taylorville, Pana. It will include Vandalia, Litchfield, and Carlinville. And that's where some of those individual cells may break free from the warm front and allow for that tornado threat to be a little higher this afternoon. Then we have to watch again as the low pressure moves through ahead of that with the line of storms tonight. That also could be an area that sees the highest here, but still don't want to discount. We're at a 4 and a 5 here in the areas in yellow. That includes Champaign, Bloomington, Lincoln, going to include Effingham, Mattoon, Charleston, Paris, and then that 2 out there. A pretty sharp cutoff with north extent from the warm front, as Jack was mentioning here. There's a little room for error in some of these spots, but we think primarily the highest threat in the area in orange. We can't rule it out to the east, so that's going to be something that we're going to watch here in the coming hours. That now just came in at 8 o'clock with 8 a.m. with the update from the Storm Prediction Center for our region. We're going to breeze through some graphics real quick here. We got to get out of here in a little bit for some more updates and whatnot. They did pull the damaging wind risk more to the east. You saw that band of storms there. It looked a little broken, but it looks like it may carry more towards the Indiana state line. That's where that red area is. The hail threat's still off to the west. That may still be an issue for some spots. We may also get a little bit of hail with some of those elevated storms. So we're going to watch it here and keep you updated. Overall, again, though, our severe weather impacts pretty consistent with the forecast here. The tornado threat, conditional, has to be watched very closely and likely picks up this afternoon and evening. The main event still looks after 7 o'clock. We got to watch that 2 to 7 window, though, Jack, don't we?
Yep, that's the thing. And that's the one that will kind of be really when we have a lot of our potential updates and maybe even some of our warnings too, the ones that we're still kind of waiting to see on, because it's really going to be all thanks to where that front ends up being. Like I've been saying, that warm front will likely surge off a bit more to our north, and that'll be something we have to keep an eye on. So this is our future track. This is the big version of it. Again, all eyes are on the warm front. These are just manually drawn in, so our better views were those localized views of our future track that we did show you. But the reason why we've been calling for, why today is more of a severe threat is just because of the fact that we have the low coming in the way that it is. We have what we've been calling the triple point. You may have heard us mentioning that a few times now over the past few days. The triple point is the intersection of the warm front, the cold front, and sometimes you even get this little portion of essentially a mixed warm and cold front called an occluded front. And because the low is passing through our area, basically from right here straight to the east, it takes that triple point and puts it on through our area. If this low was circulated and centered up in Minnesota, for example, the triple point really would not be much of an issue up there because it would be too cold, and maybe we'd be having storms along the cold front. That'd be your typical line of storms that we'd be looking at. So that's the reason why you maybe not have heard a lot of this before. It really depends on where the low is going and what atmosphere it's interacting with for it to kind of actually work. And in this instance, the ingredients are there for the triple point to work, and that will be, unfortunately, right through our area. So this low will then bring us more rain showers even overnight tonight. And then most of our rain on Monday will likely be kept to the morning hours and early afternoon hours. It'll be a windy day tomorrow because the winds will be coming in behind that system. But then we are calling for more rain showers too for Wednesday night into Thursday. those will then linger on a bit more after that. So we will have to worry about more rain showers here later on in our forecast, but for today's sake, we're not going to touch it very much because you obviously want to know most about today. So be informed here and stay informed. Review your emergency plans. Hopefully, and we go to school talks and things like that. The kids know where to go in school, but make sure your kids know where to go at your home. And make sure that in that spot, your safe spot that you have to go to, make sure you have access to maybe some of your important documents and your medications and things like that, because potentially power may be out for a little bit if we get some stronger storms that potentially could do something like that. Hopefully you've downloaded our WCI3 weather app and visit us on WCIA.com for more info. And really here, I'm going to throw this one back to you, Jacob. Prepare for flooding. Again, we've been talking so much about the severe aspects, the wind, the hail, and the tornado threat, but most of us will actually see heavy rain for today. And so we typically are going to focus in on that severe threat because that's the one that does get the most headlines, but a lot of us are going to deal with a lot of rain out of this system as well.
Yeah, that's right. So the flooding threat, something we want to make sure we're hitting that message hard, but the focus will be for tornadoes, wind, and hail, of course. So all of the issue. One thing to do, help your neighbors. Text or call them. Say, hey, if you're aware of the severe weather threat today, you got relatives, in the area or whatnot, just shoot them a message and tell them to watch Channel 3 for updates throughout the day. Follow us on Facebook and whatnot. That's important. And of course, know your safe place and your plan. You got a plan for a fire in your house. You should have the same for severe weather. That's what we're going to be watching here, some different ways to stay informed. Jack, real quick, you're going to watch the questions.
Okay.
And I saw some questions. We answered them overall. So we've done a good job of that. But this question just came on in here. This question from Scott says, if the warm front lifts north of I-72-74, is it possible that the enhanced risk could be extended to that area? At this point, what I'd like to suggest is we don't want to focus as much anymore on the wording, the color, the message. Severe weather appears possible, and we'll be nowcasting that through the day. So if you're watching, either you're going to get a lot of heavy rain or you're going to be in that severe weather threat. And if the warm front continues to move, you may end up being in both in particular. So at this point, be weather aware. It's a great question. It really is. A lot of times we think, oh, I'm in the slight, but there's an enhanced. Maybe my threat's not as high. There's still a good chance in the slight risk for showers and thunderstorms, and the heavy rain threat is not accompanied or accounted for, I should say, in that risk. So that's what I want to mention to that, Jack. I don't know if you have anything to echo to that at all.
It's just a lot of times, too, when it comes to where you are versus like if you live east of a higher threat. There's always a chance too that as those storms move from west to east, they just don't weaken as fast as what we think too. So you could still get some stronger storms that way too. So at this point now, we're really not going to be worrying too much about where the enhanced is, where the slight is. If anything, it'll help to overall just kind of show the picture of that the latest guidance and latest models keep on either moving that warm front north or it moves it south. But that's really going to be kind of our focal point is where that front ends up being.
Yeah, and I think today this graphic right here probably is going to be the one to look at. The impacts, how does it affect you? We're looking at tornadoes, we're looking at hail, we're looking at winds. The flooding threat is the highest out of all of them, especially with what we've already seen in Morgan County of 2 to 5 inches. There's some flooding reports coming in from the Quincy area now, and they're continuing to see rain. So less about the word, the number, the color. Understand there's a threat for some of us for strong tornadoes, flooding rains, even wind and hail will accompany that, and we'll be watching it very closely throughout the day as the storms move off to these. There is a chance, Jack, we talk about the threat for the failure mode, how storms may not materialize if the storm front stays maybe a little more south and storms are all north of it. The severe threat may end up being a bit of a bust today. That seems to be less and less likely at this point, but it's one thing we will be watching, especially with that afternoon round. Still expecting that last round to come on through here regardless, and so we're watching that conditional threat late or mid-afternoon and whatnot for those individual cells. So, Jack, you got any last bits before we wrap up here?
Yeah, just kind of to go along with that, most times, if it's the spring or a fall type of severe weather event like this, if you get some showers and storms that come through in the morning, a lot of times it will kill the instability, and then we don't get any storms that occur later on in the day. Because of the fact that we have a lot of support, because there's a big low pressure center not that far away, these showers and storms that we have out there this morning are not really going to be impacting negatively our chances for storms to develop later on in the day. There's a lot of atmospheric ingredients that are really in a good spot. We have obviously warm, humid air that we need at the ground, but we do have the jet stream is in a proper spot for things to occur. the low is in a proper spot for things to occur. The where the warm front and the cold front, that triple point R, is also in a good spot for things to form. So again, yes, it always is the chance that we just don't see as much severe weather as what we think, and that's always a good thing. But we have a lot of things that support the formation for severe storms. But obviously, in many cases, sometimes we have all the ingredients that are in play, and then to make a cake and the oven doesn't work very well, and you don't have a cake. So sometimes it is still possible to happen. That's always still the possibility here. But we just want to make sure that you guys stay weather aware for today.
Yeah, that's right. So that's what we're going to be doing. We'll be watching very closely all day long. You can follow us on Facebook for more updates. I would encourage you, though, to have multiple ways to get severe weather information today, especially since the ceiling is high. The window of opportunity is large for what could pan out here. Just because the ceiling high doesn't mean we reach it. But that means that there's a lot of opportunity for some things to get out of hand in a heartbeat here in Central Illinois, so we're going to watch it and keep you updated. If you're looking for more updates, some folks are asking more questions. This Facebook Live will be valid through the late morning hours. We may do one early afternoon if needed. This forecast, though, really seems to be on track. You can get those full forecast updates on WCIA.com and on the WCIA3 weather app. I've got everything updated you need to know there. There also is a new story that just was posted, how to stay weather aware. Some ideas, some important links. You can find that as well on the news page. I'll share that on the Facebook page. Rely on your phone, the television, of no weather radio for severe weather alerts today. Don't count on Facebook to tell you. The algorithm will be delayed, but you can still use that some. Just don't use that as a primary source. Use it as a secondary source here as we see those storms coming on through. All right, Jack. That's what we got here. We got to wrap things up and get some things taken care of behind the scenes. Thanks for joining us. About 8:42. Jack, you and I are going to have a busy day. Yes. I think you might be heading to the storm tracker. Probably.
We'll have to see if Kevin and Amelia will join us, but it'll be at least the two of us here working on this stuff today, and I may be in the studio, maybe in the storm tracker. We'll kind of see. The way that things are here, there may be a little bit of a mixture of both.
Yep, so we're going to watch it closely and keep you updated. Be sure and stay up to date with the weather forecast. Check out the full forecast updates. You can watch this video again. It'll post on Facebook and on Twitter. Once we end it, it might take a minute or two, but you can watch it and it'll be valid. Thanks for watching. I'm meteorologist Jacob Dickey with meteorologist Jack Gerfen. Have a great rest of your day. Stay weather aware. You can count on us to keep you updated.